Hey babies, it's your favorite host, Mr. BMG, back at it again with another episode. Let's get into it. Anyway, babies, I hope you have had an amazing week and have been doing what makes your heart full. As per usual, I was snooping around and being nosy, and I came across the story of Mia Thornton, who was basically hanging out with Khloe Farrell from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And this wasn't the first time, they've been hanging out. There've been pictures of them with Shamia as well in the past. And I feel like Mia is a girl who likes attention. She is definitely one of those thirsty clout chaser types, who will do anything to remain relevant and to have the conversation still going about them no matter what it takes. And I do feel like her posting up with these girls is maybe also just like her throwing bones of her wanting to be on the show. Now, will they receive it? Will the producers see her as a great integration into the Real Housewives of Atlanta? That remains to be seen, because definitely those friendships are not genuine. The friendships are not like, we just happen to be in the same room and voila. It's definitely trying to create association, and from the association, when she joins, or if she wants to join, it's going to come off more naturally. And off of the back of the fact that she's no longer with the man who was her high school sweetheart, the guy we saw on the Potomac Housewives, who looks like was a ride or die and was kind of always waiting for her to kind of pick him. But it just looks like she's kind of all over the show, and maybe is with him when it's convenient, when she feels like she needs a shoulder, because now obviously it looks like they're not together anymore and she's busy frolicking around with Bobby Valentino, child. Like, the math is not even, like, how did we even get to Bobby Valentino from the guy who apparently is Atlanta-based, but also is your high school sweetheart, but as quickly as you got back with him, is as quickly as you left him again. Like, if I was him, I would definitely feel like he's convenient to her, but he's not wanted by her, if that makes sense. I think she's a girl with, even her history, apparently, or allegedly, she was a stripper, and I feel like it would definitely be on brand for her to use people to get what she wants, to get money, to get clout. I just feel like it's something that she learned from the tricks of her trade. So, Mia, girl, hanging out with Khloe Farrell, not genuine at all, and it's definitely a ploy to get into the Housewives. I think she's a great talent because she's messy. I call her Messy Mia as well. I think a lot of people call her Messy Mia, because she's definitely messy boots, and she is great TV. My irritation with her is when it comes to putting her hands to the fire, sometimes it's not the best. Like, she doesn't necessarily want to do it because she runs away from accountability. I've seen her last reunion before she left the House of Potomac. She had a fire season. She deserved the first seat, but her reunion performance, it made me want to put her to the edge of the couch because she just could not handle and deal and stand on 10 toes with everything that she did and that she said, and that always makes the audience not receive her, not like her. And I think that's also why the public is just kind of not really about her because of those inconsistencies and, like, what is actually real, what is for clout with Mia. Like, it's just continuing with clout chasers and, people who somewhat have gotten off of the success of others and can't help themselves but to sort of maybe sometimes be a little delusional. Meek Mill posted like a tweet to say, well, he considers himself to be one of the greatest rappers or something of all time, something to that effect allegedly. And I think this comes off of the back of when apparently some athletes were asked randomly who they think is the best rapper, and a lot of them said Meek Mill. And so I think maybe he's just piggybacking off of that so that he can, claim that clout since his name is already up in the situation. And for me, that's like such a reach, a very big reach to be like at that, because the only song, it's called Dreams and Nightmares or something, but that's a really beautiful, timeless song. You can hear it 100 years down the line and it'll still be very beautiful. Beyond that, I really just kind of know him from featuring in Nicki Minaj's videos and kind of being associated with Nicki Minaj. So his career as a rapper, and also just him being associated with other people in the media who, allegedly, maybe we don't want to go into too much detail with, but we know allegedly that he was friends or is friends or was associated with Diddy in some capacity. What the capacity was is still a mystery. Obviously, the allegations or alleged rumors that maybe things happened and some freak-offs happened, and allegedly maybe he took it, from the backside, from the behind, and did the most, So we know him for those speculations and allegations, darling, that he will literally do anything to be relevant. And if he is that alleged social climber and will do anything, how can we really respect his craft if we're being very honest? For me, he was Nicki Minaj's handbag, and I think maybe he was just a hag and was a big fan, a Bob, undercover, low-key. But yeah, his personal career, please, let's be honest, it's such a reach, Meek Mill, let's be honest. He's delusional enough, I feel, to not pay attention to, and when we do bring him up, it's because we're talking about the delusionalness of the situation. So, yeah, his greatest achievement, I think, is just being associated with Nicki Minaj. Beyond that, Nothing's popping, nothing's cutting, sweetie. I came across the story, and I guess maybe to move on like a little more positive note, but I guess positive is relative because of the circumstances surrounding this particular situation that I want to get into. And this situation involves Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson and Tristan Thompson's brother. So a story came out on, I think, one of her final episodes of her podcast, which airs on X, where Khloe was basically saying that she made the decision to take in Tristan's brother and take care of Tristan's brother, due to Tristan's hectic NBA schedule, and Tristan's brother has special needs and obviously, would require a lot of special attention and care. And essentially, that was met with quite a lot of grace and good energy, because obviously it's like Khloe owes Tristan nothing because, look, they are not together anymore, and yes, they do have children, but I guess the understanding that Tristan's brother is Tristan's responsibility was always clear and not necessarily something that Khloe would need to do or would need to put herself in it. So essentially it's coming from the goodness of her heart. And I mean, the question is, does Tristan deserve it? Is it actually about that? I think maybe Khloe is just a nurturer and loves to take care of people, that beautiful warm energy. She's always been that Kardashian who everyone wants to be friends with because she's so likable and looks like just has a really great heart, but has just never been lucky in love and has always gotten guys who treat her nice off the face value of it, but really are just ugly and, cheat on her repeatedly and really just fumble her. And Tristan is no exception. Lamar was no exception. And basically everyone she's really been with has been no exception. So it's really big of her to even want to take care of the brother, and really so beautiful, And it looks like from what she was saying, it's already been happening. So it wasn't necessarily for clout, even though obviously she did post about it. So then it obviously becomes about people talking about it. But it looks like she had already been doing it, and I guess decided to just share it in that regard. So big on you, Khloe. Tristan doesn't necessarily deserve it, but if we're removing Tristan from the situation and just looking at his brother, who had nothing to do with, the fucked up way and the messy way that Tristan treated Khloe, it's a beautiful thing, and he would appreciate that to be taken care of. It's very, very noble of her. He started posting pics of, him and his family and the children and Dream, and I guess to create the perception that he's kind of very involved in his children's life. That remains to be seen, because I feel like Khloe's also that type of person who will defend her man or whoever, she's connected to, even if shit has hit the fan and this person is embarrassing her and is not necessarily treating her well. I mean, we saw that with Lamar. There were obviously rumors of things going on, but she always maintained, speaking well of him and just being really kind and graceful. So these pictures that he's posting up with these kids aren't necessarily fooling the public, because we know of his philandering ways, and I feel like his image is tainted because he fumbled a person as nice as Khloe. I mean, looking at all of the Kardashians, she's probably the one who you probably want to fuck with, and he couldn't even keep it in his pants for that. So the best blessing he's ever gotten was to actually have Khloe as his baby mama, because she's such a great woman. She has her own. She doesn't need anything from him. And yeah, man, like, he just needs to grow up. And my only disappointment, and always the thing that irritates me, is by the time he gets it together, he'll give all of that goodness to some other female who doesn't really deserve it, and only just came when, this person became a better person and was ready to be married. Because he's still messing around. He's literally getting his cake and eating it too. And that irritates me so much, because it's just like, he doesn't really deserve it. He doesn't really deserve the kindness. And he just absolutely needs to relish in all of that misery that he put others through, so that he can see the error of his ways. He's never going to change his ways, and even if he does, he's probably going to want to marry some other chick who, doesn't even deserve to be married and get the goodness, because the person who deserves it, you fumbled, and by the time anything ever happens with them, I don't think she'll be interested. So I hope that Khloe is doing it for the right reasons, but I also hope that she is cognizant of the fact that this person, Tristan Thompson, is really not necessarily as deserving, and I think she could pour into somebody who is willing to be faithful and loyal to her in as much as she has done to these people who have disrespected her, to put it lightly. Just going into a story that's not related, but I mean, this particular television producer is very much into telling the stories of black people, but also people with seemingly dysfunctional relationships. So Tyler Perry is apparently in the works with trying to produce Why Did I Get Married? The prequel, I guess, because there was Why Did I Get Married, Why Did I Get Married 2, and then now it's like Why Did I Get Married Again, which is, I guess, the third installment. And look, the Why Did I Get Married and Medea's Big Happy Family were really the Tyler Perry classics that really, I'd say, got the masses to really adore and like his work. And I feel like those were the days when his content was well produced. There was thought. It wasn't necessarily about finishing things in 2 days and, slapdash put everything together, and you're not even considerate of who you hire as the editor to piece everything together, to grade everything and make it look professional, like, the $1 billion business that you're in, So in all of this production of Why Did I Get Married, let's hope that doesn't ruin, the foundation of the original movies. Obviously, it's not going to be as good, that's for sure. The prequels and subsequent, movies are never as good. But all we can hope for is that he produces it and actually invests in producing it well, and it doesn't feel like, again, something that was put together very hurriedly and it just looks cheap and, like, not the quality of what people deserve to see. Maybe this is also just on the back of the fact that he's trying his best to distract people from the masses and the alleged, like, the lawsuits and stuff, and, you know, the geisha rumors and all of that mess that he's essentially just desperately trying to kind of distract the masses by sort of doing lots of positive PR, taking people back to the time where he was in their good graces with movies like that. Even the quality was great then. You know, talking about how, you know, he talked to the Sinners producer to sort of get him a deal that was similar to his Medea, where he basically kind of benefits financially more and, you know, on the back end, and essentially kind of coming across as a savior to people, particularly to black people. He's doing a lot of that PR, and I think that's all he's ever really been doing. And we've obviously now seen that these actions are inconsistent because it's really just damage control, and it always was damage control. It's just that people were not necessarily aware of what is actually trying to cover up. You know, in that whole thing of there's nothing that's ever for free, and, you know, every person has a motive for doing anything. In all of his acts and all of his kindness, there is a motive. There is always a motive. It's not just out of the goodness of his heart, child. You know, he's very, very imperfect and very flawed. Look, I'm hoping that this whole situation, this whole scenario gives him a wake-up call, because if it doesn't, honey, that whole situation is going to crumble in his face, and it's just going to be another cliche story of a black person who went up to the skies, and because of the lack of discipline and the lack of, you know, knowing how to keep it together, but also knowing how to maintain integrity, it all came back to splatter and shit in his face. To end off on a musical note, as per usual, Ayra Starr is allegedly now being managed by Roc Nation, and obviously her record label, I think Marvin Records, is a Nigerian, I think, based record label, and, you know, essentially for her to get the reach, the American reach that she wants, and to kind of start to be seen as mainstream here, she, I think, has opted to sort of be managed by a brand that's kind of heavily associated with you know, the entertainment industry currently, and, you know, the whole, obviously, Beyonce being in the conversation because obviously Jay-Z's married to Beyonce, Roc Nation, the whole works kind of a family business, and Roc Nation has a lot of reach in many different parts. So I think her being managed by Roc Nation would only maybe do her career good, but there is also a little bit of alleged controversy because there's been speculations about the alleged terms and conditions of her signing with Roc Nation as her management, and some of these comments or some of these alleged terms were the fact that she can't be in a relationship for 5 years or have a boyfriend or get pregnant, and a lot of people were kind of in uproar with how, you know, the merit of these terms and conditions, and if it's actually a good thing and for the best of the person. I think there is somewhat controversy in trying to control a person's body, come off of a society where you know, the right to keep a child or to not keep a child when one is pregnant, and all of those things are very controversial, and obviously a person can do what they want with their body. Can women be policed in that way? Can you tell a person what to do? And I think moving off of that context of, you know, parenthood and all of that stuff, but just to a musical contract, like, can a work contract actually say that you can't be pregnant and you can't be in a relationship? Is that even realistic to expect of someone? While she's obviously young, and one can maybe surmise that she wasn't thinking of doing that in any case, I think the fact that it's put explicitly in her contract that the fact that she can't do it makes it a difficult and contentious thing, if it is true, because now you're telling her not to do it, and it's not coming off of a free will. And because of that, there may now be resistance, and there may be intentional breaking of that because it's so restrictive and it's so policing of, you know, a person to tell them you can't be in a relationship and you can't get pregnant. I think life happens, and we should accept that, and we should also make it work for the script. You know, if you are a good publicist, you are a good management company, you can literally make any scenario work out for the person's favor, you know, and there's so many examples of how that has happened. It's literally just making sure that you adapt to the image and you adapt to the reality. So that's definitely controversial. If she is in that contract and that's the sacrifice she has to make, that's quite a tall sacrifice. But also, should that even be in the contract? That's where the problem is. And with all the controversies, alleged controversies around Roc Nation and the CEO, and, you know, the CEO's child, and the Nicki Minaj, you know, stories and scandals, there's a lot going on, and, you know, these alleged terms and conditions are definitely not a good look, and maybe should be revised if they're actually true. But on a positive note, her music, Hot Body, you know, Gimme That, and a lot of this fresh music that she's been releasing has really been good, and it's been making waves, and is definitely in the mood of the summer, and she's really doing well and really, you know, crafting her image in the most beautiful way and in her own lane. So definitely rooting for Ayra Starr to win and to find success internationally, and yeah, man, more life. Anyway, babies, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Messiest Bitch on the Internet. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram at BigMoneyEntertainment_, and I'll see you again on the next one.